The news of Lena and Ethan's engagement spread quickly through the office. While some co-workers offered congratulations, others remained skeptical, their old prejudices lingering beneath polite smiles. Rachel and Brian, in particular, struggled to hide their disapproval. "She's not even human," Rachel muttered under her breath during a coffee break. "How is this supposed to work?" Ethan overheard the comment but chose not to engage. He knew that no amount of arguing would change minds like Rachel's. Instead, he focused on supporting Lena, who tried her best to ignore the whispers. Together, they faced the challenges head-on, determined not to let negativity overshadow their happiness. As the weeks passed, Lena threw herself into planning their wedding. It was a daunting task, merging two vastly different cultures into one celebration, but she approached it with enthusiasm. She wanted the day to reflect both her Zyrian heritage and Ethan's Earth traditions, creating something unique and meaningful for them both. Ethan helped whenever he could, offering suggestions and reminding Lena to take breaks when she became overwhelmed. "This is supposed to be fun," he told her one evening as they pored over guest lists and venue options. "Not another project to stress about." Lena laughed softly, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It is fun," she insisted, "but it's also important. I want everything to be perfect for us." "It already is," Ethan replied, kissing the top of her head. "As long as we're together, nothing else matters." The wedding took place on a crisp spring morning at a picturesque garden just outside the city. Friends, family, and co-workers gathered under a canopy of blooming flowers, watching as Lena walked down the aisle. Her shimmering blue skin glowed softly in the sunlight, and her dress, a blend of flowing silks and intricate beadwork inspired by Zyrian designs, sparkled like starlight. Ethan stood at the altar, his eyes filled with awe as he watched her approach. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted into applause. Tears streamed down Lena's face as Ethan slipped a matching band onto her finger, sealing their vows with a kiss. For the first time in her life, she felt completely whole, not just accepted, but cherished. After the ceremony, guests mingled over food and music, celebrating the union of two worlds. A local band played a mix of earth jazz and traditional Zyrian melodies, while tables were adorned with floral arrangements that combined earth roses with glowing Zyrian blooms. The fusion of cultures was seamless, a testament to the love and effort Lena and Ethan had poured into every detail. Rachel attended reluctantly, sitting quietly at the back of the venue. Though she still harbored doubts about the relationship, she couldn't deny the joy radiating from the newlyweds. As she watched Lena laugh and dance with Ethan, she found herself softening just a little. Maybe love really could transcend differences, she thought grudgingly. Or maybe it was simply too powerful to resist. Life after the wedding was a whirlwind of adjustments and discoveries. Lena moved into Ethan's apartment, bringing with her a few mementos from Zyria crystalline ornaments that caught the light, and cast rainbows on the walls, jars of fragrant spices used in traditional dishes, and books written in her native language. Ethan embraced these additions, fascinated by the glimpses they offered into her world. In return, Lena immersed herself in earth customs, learning to cook comfort foods like lasagna and apple pie, attending football games with Ethan's friends, and marveling at the changing seasons. Each new experience brought them closer, deepening their understanding of each other. Their careers flourished as well. With Ethan no longer her direct supervisor, Lena thrived in her new role, earning promotions and accolades for her innovative solutions. Colleagues who had once dismissed her now saw her advice, recognizing her talent and dedication. Even Rachel begrudgingly admitted that Lena deserved her success. Ethan, meanwhile, continued to rise through the ranks at Technocore, his leadership skills earning him praise from higher-ups. But despite their professional achievements, neither of them lost sight of what truly mattered: their partnership. They made time for each other, whether it was sharing quiet dinners at home or taking weekend trips to explore new places. One summer evening, as they sat on a hillside overlooking The city. Ethan turned to Lena with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about going back to Zyria?" he asked. "Even just for a visit?" Lena smiled, her glowing eyes reflecting the lights below. "Sometimes," she admitted. "I miss my family and the beauty of my planet. But Earth has become my home now, because of you." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "We should go together someday," he suggested. "I'd love to see where you grew up, meet the people who shaped you, and maybe introduce them to your husband." Lena's heart swelled at the idea. "They'll adore you," she said confidently. "Just like I do." Months later, they boarded a spaceship bound for Zyria, embarking on a journey that would test their bond in ways neither of them expected. The trip itself was an adventure, filled with breathtaking views of distant galaxies and moments of quiet reflection as they gazed out at the vastness of space. When they arrived, Lena's family greeted them warmly, though her parents were initially cautious about Ethan. They had never imagined their daughter marrying someone so different from her. But as the days passed, they came to see the depth of Ethan's love for Lena and the happiness she radiated in his presence. During their stay, Ethan marveled at the wonders of Zyria, from its crystalline forests to its vibrant communities. He listened intently as Lena's relatives shared stories of her childhood, painting a picture of a girl who had always been curious, brave, and kind. In turn, Lena introduced Ethan to her culture, teaching him songs, dances, and rituals that connected her to her roots. By the time they returned to Earth, their connection was stronger than ever. They had weathered doubts, fears, and challenges both internal and external, and emerged with a love that transcended worlds. Together, they proved that belonging wasn't about fitting in. It was about finding someone who saw you clearly and loved you anyway. As they settled back into their routine, Lena often found herself thinking about the future. She dreamed of starting a family, blending Earth and Zyrian traditions to create something entirely new. Ethan supported her dreams wholeheartedly, promising to stand by her side through whatever came next. Their story was far from ordinary, but that was what made it beautiful. Through love, courage, and unwavering support, Lena and Ethan showed the universe that even the most unlikely connections could lead to extraordinary possibilities. And as they stood together, hand in hand, they knew their journey was only beginning. As the weeks turned into months, Lena and Ethan's relationship continued to blossom. They had found a rhythm that worked for them, quiet moments of connection amidst their busy lives, stolen glances across the office, and evenings spent sharing stories over tea or coffee. Their bond was growing stronger with each passing day, but they were careful not to draw too much attention to themselves at work. The last thing they wanted was to give Rachel and Brian more ammunition to use against them. Still, whispers followed them wherever they went. Some co-workers speculated openly about whether Lena and Ethan were dating, while others dismissed it as unlikely. "He's just being nice to her because she's different," one person said during a lunch break. "It's probably nothing." But deep down, everyone could sense that something had changed between them, a shift in the air, an unspoken understanding that went beyond professional courtesy. Rachel, however, refused to let it go. Her resentment toward Lena had only grown since the sabotage incident, and seeing Ethan grow closer to her felt like a personal affront. One afternoon, she cornered him in the break room, her tone sharp and accusatory. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" she demanded, crossing her arms tightly. "About her?" Ethan sighed, setting his coffee cup down on the counter. "Rachel, I've already told you. This is none of your business." "It is my business when it affects the team," she shot back. "People are talking, Ethan. Do you really think it's smart to get involved with someone so different? Someone who doesn't even belong here?" Her words stung, but Ethan didn't let them show. Instead, he fixed her with a steady gaze, his voice calm but firm. "Lena belongs wherever she chooses to be. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me." Rachel opened her mouth to argue further, but stopped herself, realizing she wasn't going to win this battle. She stormed out of the break room, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, not with people like Rachel determined to make things difficult. But he also knew that what he shared with Lena was worth fighting. For that evening, Lena noticed the tension in Ethan's expression as they worked late together. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly, placing a hand on his arm. "You seem distracted." Ethan hesitated before answering. "Rachel confronted me today," he admitted. "She doesn't approve of us being close." Lena's heart sank, though she tried to hide it. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I don't want to cause trouble for you." "You're not causing trouble," Ethan replied quickly, turning to face her. "This isn't your fault. Rachel's just jealous or maybe scared of change. But I won't let her or anyone else dictate how I live my life." His words brought a small smile to Lena's lips. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "for standing by me, for believing in me." Ethan took her hands. In his touch warm and reassuring. "Always," he promised. "No matter what happens, we'll face it together." Despite the challenges, Lena and Ethan continued to find joy in each other's company. On weekends, they explored the city, together, visiting museums, parks, and cafes. They marveled at Earth's wonders, the towering skyscrapers, the vibrant sunsets, the endless variety of cultures and traditions. For Lena, these experiences were reminders of why she had come to Earth in the first place. For Ethan, they were opportunities to see the world through her eyes, to rediscover the beauty in everyday moments. One Saturday afternoon, they visited a planetarium on the outskirts of Chicago. As they sat beneath the dome ceiling, watching stars flicker to life overhead, Lena leaned into Ethan, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" she asked, gesturing to the simulated night sky. "Beyond Earth? Beyond Ziria?" "All the time," Ethan replied, smiling faintly. "But lately, I've been thinking less about the stars and more about the person sitting next to me." Lena blushed, her cheeks glowing faintly under the dim light. "You say the sweetest things," she teased, nudging him playfully. "I mean them," Ethan said earnestly. "You've changed my perspective on so many things, Lena. Love, acceptance, courage. You've shown me that the most extraordinary connections often come from the most unexpected places." Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. "You've done the same for me," she confessed. "Before I met you, I thought love was something reserved for humans, for people who looked alike, acted alike, lived alike. But now I know better. Love isn't about fitting in. It's about finding someone who sees you for who you truly are and loves you anyway." Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer. "And I do," he whispered. "More than anything." Back at the office, tension simmered beneath the surface. Rachel and Brian continued to spread rumors, though their efforts grew less effective as time went on. Slowly but surely, Lena's co-workers began to see her in a new light. Her dedication, intelligence, and quiet strength earned her grudging respect even from those who had once doubted her. During a particularly challenging project, Lena stepped up to lead the team, coordinating efforts and ensuring every detail was perfect. When the client praised their work, several of her colleagues thanked her sincerely, acknowledging her contributions without hesitation. For Lena, it was a small victory, but one that meant the world. Ethan watched proudly as Lena blossomed, her confidence growing with each success. He admired her resilience, her ability to rise above adversity and prove her worth. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. He knew he was partly responsible for the hostilities she faced. His position as her boss made their relationship complicated, no matter how genuine it was. One evening, after everyone else had left the office, Ethan pulled Lena aside. "We need to talk," he said, his tone serious. "About us." Lena's heart skipped a beat. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Nothing's wrong," Ethan assured her quickly. "But I've been thinking." Maybe it's time for me to step back as your supervisor. If we're going to make this work, if we're going to build a future together, I don't want there to be any doubt about where my priorities lie." Lena stared at him, stunned. "You do that? For me?" "For us," Ethan corrected gently. "I care about you too much to risk losing what we have. Besides, Technocore has other managers who can oversee your work. It's the right thing to do." Lena felt a lump form in her throat. She had never imagined that Ethan would sacrifice something so significant for her sake. "Thank you," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." "You didn't have to do anything," Ethan replied, brushing a strand of silvery hair behind her ear. "Just being you is enough." The next morning, Ethan submitted a formal request to HR, asking to transfer Lena to another department within the company. While the decision sparked some murmurs among their coworkers, it ultimately cleared the way for them to pursue their relationship without fear of judgment or interference. With the weight of secrecy lifted, Lena and Ethan embraced their newfound freedom. They began spending more time together outside of work, exploring hobbies and interests they both enjoyed. They cooked meals together, laughed over silly movies, and dreamed about the future. For the first time in her life, Lena felt truly happy, not just content, but deeply, profoundly joyful. One crisp autumn evening, as they strolled hand in hand through a park illuminated by golden streetlights, Ethan stopped suddenly, turning to face Lena. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you," he said, his voice soft but steady. Lena tilted her head curiously. "What is it?" Ethan reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver ring, its design elegant yet understated. "Lena Vortha," he began, his eyes shining with emotion, "you've shown me that love knows no boundaries, not planets, not appearances, not differences. Will you spend the rest of your life showing me and the universe what it means to truly belong?" Tears streamed down Lena's face as she nodded, unable to speak. "Yes," she finally managed, her voice choked with happiness. "1,000 times, yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands trembling slightly. Then he pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her as though he never wanted to let go. Around them, the world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them and the promise of a future filled with love, adventure, and endless possibilities. The days that followed Ethan and Lena's quiet confession felt like stepping into uncharted territory for both of them. They had always shared a professional bond, but now with their feelings laid bare, everything seemed different. Yet, neither of them wanted to rush things. They decided to take it slow, navigating this new chapter in their lives carefully dotted work. They acted as though nothing had changed outwardly. Ethan continued to support Lena as her boss, offering guidance on projects and praising her contributions. During team meetings, Lena, too, maintained her professionalism, focusing on her tasks and trying not to let her emotions show. But beneath the surface, there was an undeniable shift, a warmth in their interactions. A lingering glance here and there, a smile exchanged when no one was looking. Their co-workers noticed the subtle changes. Rachel and Brian still smarting from being exposed for their sabotage, whispered about Lena and Ethan behind closed doors. "Do you think something's going on between them?" Rachel asked one afternoon, her tone laced with suspicion. Brian shrugged, but his narrowed eyes betrayed his unease. "Wouldn't surprise me," he muttered. "She's been getting special treatment ever since she got here." Despite the gossip, Lena chose to ignore it. She had come too far to let baseless rumors affect her anymore. Besides, what she shared with Ethan was real. It wasn't about favoritism or office politics. It was about trust, respect, and a connection that ran deeper than words could describe. One evening, after most of the team had left the office, Ethan invited Lena to join him for dinner at a small Italian restaurant nearby. The invitation caught her off guard, but she accepted without hesitation. As they walked together under the soft glow of streetlights, Lena felt a flutter of excitement. mixed with nervousness. This was their first outing outside of work, and she wasn't sure what to expect. The restaurant was cozy, with warm lighting and the faint aroma of garlic and herbs filling the air. They were seated at a corner table, away from the crowd, giving them privacy to talk freely. For the first time, they weren't bound by workplace formalities. They were simply two people sharing a meal and getting to know each other better. Ethan started the conversation by asking Lena about Zaria. "Tell me more about your home," he said, leaning forward slightly. "What's it like there?" Lena hesitated for a moment, unsure where to begin. Talking about Zaria brought back memories, some beautiful, others bittersweet. "It's peaceful," she finally said, her voice soft. "The skies are purple, and the trees shimmer like crystals when the wind blows. We don't have cities like yours. Instead, we live in communities connected by nature. Everything is balanced: our technology, our environment, even our relationships." "That sounds amazing," Ethan replied, genuinely intrigued. "Why did you leave, if you don't mind me asking?" Lena looked down at her hands, tracing the rim of her glass with her finger. "I wanted to see beyond Zaria," she admitted. "On my planet, life can feel predictable. I craved adventure, challenges, experiences that would shape me in ways I couldn't imagine." Earth seemed like the perfect place to start. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "And has it been what you expected?" Lena smiled faintly. "Not exactly. There's beauty here, yes, but also pain. People are complicated. They can be kind and cruel in the same breath. Sometimes it's hard to understand why." Her words struck a chord with Ethan. He leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You're right about people being complicated. I grew up in a rough neighborhood where everyone judged me before they even knew me. I worked twice as hard to prove myself, to show them I wasn't just some kid from the wrong side of town. Even now, sometimes I feel like I'm still proving myself." Lena listened intently, her glowing eyes filled with empathy. She reached across the table, placing her hand gently on his. "You've already proven yourself to me," she said softly. "Your kindness, your fairness, you show me that humans can be extraordinary." Ethan's cheeks flushed slightly at her words. "Thank you, Lena. That means a lot coming from you." They spent the rest of the evening talking about their dreams and fears, their hopes for the future. Lena confessed that she often worried about whether she truly belonged on Earth, whether she would ever find a place where she fit in completely. Ethan reassured her, saying, "Belonging isn't about blending in. It's about finding people who accept you for who you are. And I think you found that with me." By the end of the night, Lena felt lighter, as if a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying had been lifted. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe that happiness was possible, that love could transcend differences and bring two worlds together. The next morning, Lena arrived at the office with a renewed sense of purpose. She greeted her coworkers politely, ignoring the occasional stares and whispers. When Ethan stopped by her desk to check on her progress, their eyes met briefly, and they shared a secret smile. No words were needed. They both knew what the other was thinking. Rachel and Brian, however, weren't ready to give up their hostility. Seeing Lena and Ethan growing closer only fueled their resentment. One day, Rachel approached Ethan in the push hallway, her arms crossed and her expression sour. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" she asked pointedly. "Getting involved with her? People will talk." Ethan's jaw tightened, his patience wearing thin. "My personal life is none of your business, Rachel. What happens between Lena and me stays between us." End of discussion. Rachel huffed but didn't press further. Still, the tension in the office remained palpable. Lena could feel it every time she walked past Rachel's desk or overheard fragments of conversations. But she refused to let it bring her down. With Ethan by her side, she felt stronger than ever as the weeks went by. Lena and Ethan continued to build their relationship quietly. They took walks during lunch breaks, shared stories about their childhoods, and discovered shared interest books, music, and even a mutual love for stargazing. Each moment they spent together deepened their bond, making it clear that their connection was more than just physical attraction. It was built on trust, understanding, and a shared desire to support one another. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Ethan invited Lena to his apartment. "I thought we could relax for a bit," he said, smiling warmly. "No pressure, just some downtime." Lena agreed, curious to see where Ethan lived. His apartment was modest but cozy, with shelves lined with books and photographs of his family. He brewed tea for them and turned on soft music, creating a calming atmosphere. As they sat together on the couch, Lena felt a sense of comfort she hadn't experienced in years. "Do you ever miss Zyria?" Ethan asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Lena thought for a moment before answering. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I remember why I came here: to grow, to learn, to experience life beyond what I knew. And lately," she paused, glancing at him shyly, "lately, I've found something or someone that makes Earth feel like home." Ethan's heart swelled at her words. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "You've made this planet feel brighter for me too. Lena, you've taught me that love isn't about sameness. It's about seeing each other clearly and embracing our differences." Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, but they were tears of joy. In that moment, she realized that she had found something rare and precious, a love that transcended worlds. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together. The weeks that followed were some of the busiest Lena had experienced since starting at Technocore. The success of her recent project earned her a new level of respect from Ethan, who continued to assign her challenging tasks. But despite the progress she was making, the bullying from Rachel and Brian showed no signs of stopping. If anything, it grew worse. Rachel and Brian began targeting Lena in subtler, more damaging ways. They started spreading rumors about her work, claiming she wasn't as skilled as everyone thought. "She probably just got lucky with that last project," Rachel whispered to a group of coworkers during lunch one day. "Let's see how long she lasts when things get tough." Lena overheard the comment, but chose not to respond. She had learned by now that arguing only fueled their behavior. Instead, she focused on proving them wrong through her actions. Every task she completed was flawless, every deadline met with precision. Yet, no matter how hard she worked, Rachel and Brian found new ways to undermine her. One morning, Lena arrived at the office to find her computer screen blank. Confused, she tried restarting it, but nothing happened. When she reported the issue to IT, they informed her that someone had tampered with her files, deleting critical data for an upcoming client presentation. Panic set in as Lena realized the gravity of the situation. Without those files, the entire project was at risk, and so was her reputation. Ethan noticed her distress immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked, approaching her desk with concern. Lena hesitated before explaining what had happened. His expression darkened as he listened. "This isn't acceptable," he said firmly. "Whoever did this needs to be held accountable." Despite his determination, Lena felt defeated. She knew Rachel and Brian were behind the sabotage, but without proof, there was little she could do. The thought of facing the client meeting unprepared made her stomach churn. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she considered giving up, but Ethan refused to let her give in. He spent hours helping her reconstruct the missing data, piecing together fragments from backups and brainstorming solutions. "We'll fix this," he assured her. Together, their late-night efforts brought them closer than ever. As they worked side by side, Lena found herself opening up to Ethan in ways she never had before. She told him about the loneliness she felt, the constant whispers and stares that wore her down. To her surprise, Ethan didn't offer empty platitudes or dismiss her feelings. Instead, he listened intently, his gaze steady and supportive. "You're stronger than they realize," he said finally. "And you're not alone. I'm here for you, Lena. His words brought tears to her eyes, though she quickly blinked them. Away? Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I'd do without your support. By the time the client meeting arrived, Lena and Ethan had managed to salvage the presentation. Though it wasn't perfect, it was enough to impress the client and secure the deal. Afterward, Ethan congratulated her warmly, praising her resilience and ingenuity. But Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the victory was hollow. She knew the real battle wasn't over yet. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan began investigating. The sabotage? He reviewed security logs and cross-referenced timestamps, eventually discovering evidence that pointed directly to Rachel and Brian. Armed with the proof, he called a mandatory team meeting. When everyone gathered in the conference room, Ethan wasted no time getting to the point. I want to address something serious, he began, his tone firm but calm. Someone deliberately tampered with Lena's files, jeopardizing not only her work, but also the company's relationship with our clients. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. Rachel and Brian exchanged nervous glances but said nothing. Ethan continued, I have evidence showing who was responsible. Rachel, Brian, you owe Lena an apology. And if this happens again, I won't hesitate to escalate the matter to HR. Rachel's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. You can't blame us for everything, she snapped defensively. Maybe she deleted the files herself to get attention. Ethan's expression hardened. The evidence doesn't lie. Admit what you did, or I'll share it with the entire company. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Brian sighed heavily, looking down at the table. Fine, he muttered. We messed with her files. We thought it would teach her a lesson. A lesson? Ethan repeated incredulously. About what? That it's okay to bully someone because they're different? Rachel crossed her arms, avoiding eye contact. It was just a joke, she mumbled reluctantly. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Well, it did, Ethan shot back. Apologize to Lena, now. Reluctantly, Rachel and Brian turned to Lena. Their apologies were insincere and forced, but Lena accepted them graciously. She didn't expect them to change overnight, but at least the truth was out in the open. For the first time, she felt a small sense of vindication. After the meeting, Ethan pulled Lena aside. Are you okay? He asked gently. That must have been difficult. Lena nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. It was, but thank you for standing up for me. Again. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You shouldn't have to face this alone. I meant what I said. You're not alone. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the office shifted. While Rachel and Brian still avoided Lena, others began treating her with more respect. Some even started acknowledging her contributions openly, thanking her for her insights during meetings. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Still, Lena's thoughts kept returning to Ethan. His unwavering support had changed everything for her. She admired his courage, his fairness, and the way he always seemed to know exactly what to say. The more time they spent together, the harder it became for her to suppress her growing feelings. One evening, as they worked late on another project, Lena decided to take a chance. Ethan, she began hesitantly, can I ask you something? He looked up from his laptop, curious. Of course. She took a deep breath, her glowing eyes meeting his. Why are you so kind to me? Even when others aren't, you always stand by my side. Why? Ethan smiled softly, setting his pen down. Because you deserve it, Lena. You've shown incredible strength and talent, and I respect that. Plus, he paused, his voice growing quieter. I care about you. More than I should, maybe. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to admit his feelings so openly. You care about me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Ethan replied, his cheeks reddening slightly. I know it might sound crazy, given everything. But there's something about you, your determination, your kindness that draws me in. I can't explain it." Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy. "I feel the same way," she admitted, her voice trembling. "From the moment I met you, I've admired you. I didn't think you'd ever see me the same way." Ethan reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I see you, Lena, all of you. And I think we could be good together if you're willing to take the risk." Lena nodded, her heart swelling with hope. For so long, she had believed that love was impossible for someone like her. But now, sitting across from Ethan, she realized that maybe love wasn't about being the same. It was about seeing each other clearly, flaws and all dot. As they sat there, holding hands in the quiet glow of the office lights, Lena felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Ethan by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Lena's days began to fall into a routine. She woke up early, prepared for work, and walked to the office with a quiet determination. Each morning, she reminded herself why she had come to Earth: to grow, to learn, and to make a difference. But no matter how hard she tried to focus on her goals, her thoughts kept drifting back to Ethan. His kindness stood out in sharp contrast to the coldness of her other coworkers. He was like a steady light in an otherwise dim room, and Lena couldn't help but feel drawn to him. That one afternoon, Ethan called Lena into his office to discuss a new project. It was a high-stakes assignment involving advanced data modeling, and he wanted her to take the lead. "You're the best person for this," he said confidently, handing her a folder filled with notes and instructions. "I know it's a lot, but I believe in you." Lena accepted the folder with both hands, her heart racing. Leading such an important project felt overwhelming, but also exciting. She glanced at Ethan, searching his face for any hint of doubt. Instead, she found only trust and encouragement. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I won't let you down." Ethan smiled warmly. "I know you won't. If you need anything, just let me know." As Lena returned to her desk, she couldn't shake the warmth spreading through her chest. Ethan's faith in her meant more than he realized. For so long, she had doubted whether anyone on Earth could see past her appearance and truly appreciate who she was. Yet here was Ethan, treating her like an equal, believing in her abilities when others dismissed her outright. The thought made her heart ache, not from sadness, but from something deeper, something she didn't fully understand yet. Over the next few days, Lena threw herself into the project. She worked late hours, double-checking every calculation and refining her models until they were perfect. Occasionally, Ethan would stop by to check on her progress. Their conversations were brief but meaningful, often leaving Lena feeling lighter, as if his presence alone could chase away the weight of the world. One evening, after most of the office had cleared out, Ethan approached Lena's desk again. "Still working?" he asked, glancing at the papers scattered across her workspace. "You've been at this nonstop for days." "I want to get it right," Lena replied, brushing a strand of silvery hair behind her ear. "This is important." Ethan nodded, pulling up a chair beside her. "It is important, but don't forget to take care of yourself, too. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say." Lena tilted her head slightly, confused by the phrase. "Pour from an empty cup?" He chuckled softly. "It means you can't give your best if you're exhausted. Trust me, I've been there." She smiled faintly, touched by his concern. "I'll try to remember that." They sat together for a while, going over the details of the project. As they talked, Lena found herself relaxing, her usual guardedness melting away. With Ethan, she didn't feel the need to constantly prove herself or hide parts of who she was. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. When the conversation turned to lighter topics, Lena hesitated before speaking. "Ethan," she began cautiously, "why are you so kind to me? Most people, they don't treat me the same way." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "I guess it's because I see potential in you, and I know what it's like to feel out of place." He paused, as if debating whether to share more. Finally, he continued. When I first started here, I wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms either. People judged me based on where I came from, my background, my accent, everything. It took time, but eventually I earned their respect. And now I'm trying to create a better environment for everyone. Lena listened intently, her glowing eyes wide with surprise. She had never imagined that Ethan, who seemed so confident and respected, might have faced struggles of his own. I didn't know that, she admitted quietly. But thank you for understanding, Ethan shrugged modestly. We all have our battles, Lena. What matters is how we face them. His words stayed with her long after he left to head home. That night, as Lena lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she replayed their conversation in her mind. Ethan's openness had touched her deeply, making her feel less alone. She admired his resilience, his ability to rise above judgment and still treat others with compassion. These qualities only strengthened the feelings budding inside her. The following week, Lena completed the project ahead of schedule. When she presented her findings to the team, even Rachel and Brian couldn't find fault with her work. Ethan praised her publicly during the meeting, calling her efforts nothing short of brilliant. For the first time, Lena noticed a few nods of approval from her co-workers, though some still avoided meeting her gaze. After the presentation, Ethan invited her to grab coffee at a nearby cafe. At first, Lena hesitated, unsure if accepting would be appropriate. But something about the way he looked at her, his eyes soft and inviting, made her agree. They walked to the cafe in comfortable silence, the cool autumn air brushing against their faces. Inside, the cozy atmosphere provided a welcome escape from the sterile office environment. They ordered their drinks and settled into a corner table, steam rising from their cups. This feels nice, Ethan said, breaking the silence. It's good to get away from the grind sometimes. Lena nodded, wrapping her hands around her mug. Yes, it does. Thank you for inviting me. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan leaned forward slightly, his tone turning serious. Lena, I want you to know that I value having you on the team. Your skills are unmatched, and your dedication inspires everyone, even if they don't always show it. Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. No one had ever spoken to her with such sincerity before. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling. That means more to me than you know. Ethan reached across the table, placing a hand gently on hers. You deserve to be treated with respect. Don't ever forget that. The simple gesture sent a wave of emotion crashing over Lena. Her pulse quickened, and she felt her cheeks flush. She wanted to tell him how much he meant to her, how his kindness had become a lifeline in a world that often felt hostile. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she murmured, You make this planet feel less lonely. Ethan's eyes softened, and for a moment, neither of them moved. The connection between them was undeniable, hanging thick in the air like an unspoken promise. Lena knew then that her feelings for him weren't just admiration. They were something far stronger, something she couldn't ignore any longer. As they finished their coffee and headed back to the office, Lena resolved to embrace whatever the future held. Whether or not Ethan felt the same way, she was grateful for the bond they shared. For now, that was enough. The next few weeks were a blur of long hours and quiet struggles for Lena. Each morning, she arrived at the office early, hoping to avoid unnecessary interactions with her coworkers. She poured all her energy into her work, determined to prove that she was more than just the alien woman everyone whispered about. Her glowing blue skin and softly shimmering eyes continued to draw stares, but she tried to ignore them. Instead, she focused on the numbers, charts, and algorithms that made up her daily tasks. Ethan noticed her dedication almost immediately. He often stopped by her desk to check on her progress or offer guidance when she seemed stuck. His presence was a source of comfort for Lena, even though she rarely let it show. Ethan's calm demeanor and genuine interest in her success made him stand out from the others. While most of her coworkers avoided her, Ethan treated her like any other member of the team, no special treatment. But no disdain either. Despite Ethan's support, the workplace remained hostile. Rachel Dawson and Brian Hayes, two of the more vocal employees, took every opportunity to make Lena feel unwelcome. They would roll their eyes when she spoke during meetings or laugh quietly whenever she walked by. Sometimes they made snide comments loud enough for her to hear. Guess we're working with extraterrestrial intelligence now, Brian once joked during a coffee break. A few people chuckled nervously, while others looked away, unwilling to confront the cruelty. Lena learned to keep her head down and her emotions in check. She had spent years mastering control over her expressions back on Zyria, where showing vulnerability was often seen as a weakness. Here on Earth, it became a survival tactic. Still, the constant bullying wore on her. At night, alone in her apartment, she replayed their words in her mind, wondering if she'd ever truly belong. One afternoon, Ethan called a team meeting to discuss an upcoming project. Lena sat quietly in the corner of the conference room, listening as her colleagues debated ideas. When Ethan opened the floor for suggestions, Lena hesitated before raising her hand. She knew her input could add value, but she also feared the ridicule that might follow. Sure enough, when she finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. Rachel interrupted her almost immediately. "Sorry, Lena," Rachel said with a smirk, "but I don't think we need advice from someone who probably uses alien math." The room erupted in awkward laughter. Lena felt her cheeks grow warm, though whether from embarrassment or anger she couldn't tell. She glanced at Ethan, hoping for some sign of support, but he only frowned deeply, his jaw tightening. After the meeting, Ethan pulled Rachel aside. "That wasn't appropriate," he said firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Lena is part of this team, and her contributions are just as valid as anyone else's." Rachel shrugged, feigning innocence. "I was just joking around. No harm meant." "Well, it didn't sound like a joke to me," Ethan replied. "And if I hear anything like that again, I'll have to take it up with HR, understood?" Rachel nodded reluctantly, but the tension between them was palpable. Later that day, she shot Lena a glare across the office, as if blaming her for getting called out. Lena pretended not to notice, though the incident left her feeling uneasy. She appreciated Ethan standing up for her, but she worried it might only make things worse. As the days passed, the bullying continued, albeit more subtly. Rachel and Brian found new ways to undermine Lena without drawing too much attention. They started excluding her from important emails, or deliberately assigning her menial tasks that kept her busy but offered little recognition. Once, they even scheduled a crucial brainstorming session during her lunch break. Knowing she wouldn't be there to participate, Ethan did his best to counteract their behavior. He began including Lena in high-profile projects, ensuring her talents were put to good use. He praised her work openly during team meetings, highlighting her ability to solve complex problems quickly. "Lena's analysis saved us weeks of effort," he announced during one presentation. "Let's give her the credit she deserves." His words earned a smattering of applause, though some clapped half-heartedly. Still, Lena felt a flicker of pride. For the first time since starting at Technocore, she felt like her hard work was being acknowledged. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Away from the office, Lena struggled to process everything. She often found herself thinking about Ethan and how different he was from the others. Unlike Rachel and Brian, who judged her based on appearances, Ethan saw beyond the surface. He valued her skills and treated her with respect, even when it wasn't easy. Over time, Lena began to develop feelings for him, feelings she couldn't quite explain. Back on Zyria, romantic relationships were rare and often arranged for practical reasons. Love, as humans understood it, was a foreign concept to her. Yet, watching Ethan interact with her and defend her against her tormentors stirred something deep within her. She admired his strength and kindness, qualities she hadn't encountered often among humans. Whenever he smiled at her or offered words of encouragement, her heart skipped a beat. but Lena kept these emotions hidden, afraid of what might happen if anyone found out. How could she confess her feelings to someone so different from her? Would Ethan even consider seeing her as more than just a coworker or worse, an alien anomaly? These questions haunted her, but she pushed them aside, focusing instead on surviving. Each day. One evening, after another long day at the office, Lena stayed late to finish up a report. The building was nearly empty, save for a few stragglers working on deadlines. As she typed away at her computer, she heard footsteps approaching. Looking up, she saw Ethan walking toward her, a folder in hand. "Still here?" he asked, his tone casual but friendly. Lena nodded. "Just finishing up. I didn't want to leave this until tomorrow." Ethan smiled faintly. "You really take your work seriously, don't you?" "It's important to me," she replied simply. "I want to prove that I belong here." Ethan paused, studying her face. "You already do, Lena. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." His words caught her off guard. For a moment, she considered telling him everything, the loneliness, the bullying, the growing affection she felt for him, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she managed a small smile. "Thank you, Ethan. That means a lot." He nodded, then turned to leave. Before stepping away, he added, "If you ever need to talk, my door's always open." Lena watched him go, her chest tightening with emotion. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he truly cared. But the fear of rejection lingered, holding her back. For now, she resolved to keep her distance, content to admire him from afar. As she packed up her things and headed home, Lena couldn't help but wonder if things might change someday. Maybe, with time, her coworkers would come to accept her. Maybe Ethan would see her as more than just a colleague. Until then, she would continue doing what she did best, working hard and staying strong. Lena Vortha stepped off the shuttle with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had traveled light years to reach Earth, leaving behind everything familiar on her home planet of Zyria. The air smelled different here, sharp and metallic compared to the soft floral breeze of Zyria. Her shimmering blue skin caught the sunlight as she walked toward the towering building where she would begin her new job. People stared at her as she passed, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright discomfort. Lena tried not to let it bother her. She was used to standing out. Her first day at Technocore Solutions started early. The office buzzed with activity when she arrived, employees rushing between cubicles or chatting near the coffee machine. Lena stood out even more in this sea of ordinary humans. Her glowing eyes scanned the room as she looked for the person who was supposed to greet her. A tall man with short brown hair approached her, holding out his hand with a polite smile. "You must be Lena," he said. "I'm Ethan Carter, your supervisor." Lena shook his hand gently, careful not to grip too hard. On Zyria, firm handshakes were considered aggressive, but she didn't want to seem rude either. "Thank you for welcoming me," she replied, her voice smooth but tinged with an accent that made some words sound musical. Ethan nodded and led her to her desk, explaining her role as a data analyst. He spoke clearly and patiently, making sure she understood what was expected of her. For the first time since arriving, Lena felt a small sense of relief. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. But the rest of the day proved challenging. As Lena settled into her workstation, she noticed the stares. Some people whispered to each other, pointing discreetly in her direction. Others avoided looking at her altogether, pretending to focus intently on their screens. During lunch, Lena carried her tray to an empty table, hoping someone might join her. No one did. Instead, she overheard fragments of conversations from nearby tables. "Did you see her skin? It's like shiny," one woman remarked. Another laughed nervously. "Do you think she's wearing makeup or something?" Lena lowered her gaze, focusing on her food. Back on Zyria, her appearance was nothing unusual. In fact, her shimmering skin was seen as a sign of good health. Here, it seemed to mark her a strange alien, not just in origin but in nature. She finished her meal quickly and returned to her desk, determined to prove herself through her work. If they wouldn't accept her for who she was, then maybe they'd respect what she could do. By mid-afternoon, Lena had already completed several tasks assigned to her by Ethan. Her efficiency impressed him, and he stopped by her desk to offer praise. "Great work, Lena," he said warmly. "You're picking things up faster than I expected." His words gave her a small boost of confidence, but they also drew unwanted attention. Rachel Dawson, a co-worker with sharp features and an even sharper tongue, leaned over from her neighboring cubicle. "Fast? Sure, if you're used to working with alien tech," she quipped loudly enough for others to hear. A few people chuckled awkwardly, while others exchanged uneasy glances. Ethan frowned slightly, but chose not to address the comment directly. Instead, he gave Lena an encouraging nod before walking away. Lena appreciated his restraint. She knew he meant well. Still, the incident lingered in her mind. Was this how it would always be? Would every achievement of hers be met with mockery rather than admiration? As the day wore on, Lena found herself increasingly isolated. When the team gathered for a quick meeting to discuss an upcoming project, she sat quietly in the corner, listening as everyone else contributed ideas. No one asked for her input. Even when she raised her hand hesitantly, trying to speak, the conversation moved on without acknowledgement. By the time the meeting ended, Lena felt invisible and worse, irrelevant. On her way back to her desk, she passed by the break room. Through the open door, she could see a group of co-workers laughing together. They weren't laughing at her this time, but the sight still stung. She longed to belong, to feel like part of the team. But how could she, when they treated her like an outsider? That evening, as Lena packed up her things to leave, Ethan stopped by again. "How was your first day?" he asked, his tone friendly yet cautious. Lena hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "It was fine," she finally said, forcing a smile. Ethan studied her face for a moment, sensing there was more to the story. "If anyone gives you trouble, let me know," he added firmly. "We don't tolerate disrespect here." Lena nodded, grateful for his support. Yet, deep down, she doubted whether anyone would listen if she complained. The truth was, she didn't want to cause trouble. All she wanted was to do her job and earn their respect. But as she stepped out of the office and into the cool night air, she couldn't shake the feeling that earning their respect might take longer than she hoped. Walking back to her temporary apartment, Lena replayed the day's events in her mind. The whispers, the laughter, the cold shoulders, all of it weighed heavily on her. And yet, amidst the negativity, there was Ethan. His kindness stood out like a beacon in an otherwise dark landscape. Lena didn't know much about human emotions, but she recognized sincerity when she saw it. Ethan's actions reminded her that not everyone on Earth was cruel or judgmental. Back at her apartment, Lena gazed out the window at the glittering city lights. She thought about her decision to come to Earth. It hadn't been easy leaving Zyria, but she had believed in the promise of growth and opportunity. Now, faced with hostility and isolation, she wondered if she had made the right choice. But then she remembered Ethan's words. "We don't tolerate disrespect here." Perhaps there was hope after all. Perhaps with time, she could find her place among these strangers. For now, though, Lena resolved to keep her head down and focus on her work. She would show them that she belonged not because of her appearance or her origins, but because of her skills and determination. And maybe, just maybe, she could win over a few hearts along the way.